Welcome back to The Gassing Station, the podcast that goes sifting through the PistonHeads forums like Porsche has been sifting through its parts bin because, co-host Sam Sheehan, there's a new 911 GT3 derivative.
Yeah.
And we've seen it.
We have, yeah. We've seen two versions of it.
We have. Oh, yes, we have, haven't we?
Yeah,
yes, there was another one there.
Street pack.
Yeah.
Which was covered in graffiti and had like people jumping out. I don't know why I'm doing the gun fingers. Yeah.
Looking really cool.
I suddenly uncalled myself there, didn't I?
Yes, exactly. As soon as the gang signs start coming out.
For the listeners, I didn't do any offensive gang signs. It was poor gun fingering. But anyway.
Yes, yeah, precisely. Well, Sam's been busy fingering away over there. We actually, just to jump straight into it, we've been off to Stuttgart to see the new 911 GT3 SC, which is it's not a speedster.
No, and it's a bit cheaper.
It is a little bit cheaper than the speedster was back in 2019. Yeah, but it's So for those of you that don't know, it is basically a 911 GT3 Cabriolet. We all thought that this was going to be something else when we were told you're going to Stuttgart to see a new GT product. I was hoping that it was going to, or I was expecting it to be the car that has been spotted at the Nürburgring for the last many years with a massive wing and turbo sounds. But it wasn't that. Again. And instead I was told beforehand that it's a 911 GT3 Cabriolet.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but my first thinking when I heard about it was like, how on earth does that work?
Yeah.
It seems completely alien.
Counterintuitive, right? Yeah, it's exactly like performance car. And it's not like McLaren Tubbs, which we talked about, where the structure's the same. But I don't know about you. I went there thinking, parts bin stuff. But then you go there, you look at it, you think, oh, that's quite cool, actually. Oh my God, they've actually done some amazing things with this. And that's actually quite a nice mixture of components to create something different and extremely desirable. It's
actually been quite testing as a journalist because there was a lot of... we'll kind of get onto all the nitty-gritty details in a bit, but kind of first of all, just to kind of differentiate between 911 GT3 SC versus a speedster, the core difference is a speedster has no roof other than something that you can button on top.
Yeah.
It's a manually fastened roof.
It's inconvenient.
It's inconvenient.
As Andreas
Preuninger,
that's it. As he said, for you Brits, I think he was looking at a bunch of UK journalists. He was like, It was inconvenient when the heavens open. It rains in Germany, but
exactly. Yeah, two extremely similar climates.
Yeah, but he's right. It's inconvenient for the few people that own one. If it suddenly started to rain and you were doing 40 on an A road, it would have been quite tricky to fix that problem.
And actually, Andy, we can call him that because he's our mate now.
Yeah,
we'll explain it a little bit.
He's very cool.
That Brits are probably more likely, I would think, to grit their teeth and bear a wet weather with the roof down, then I think Germans would look at it and go, it's raining, we're going to put the roof up.
Yeah.
Whereas Brits would go, no, I've bought this car and I'm going to drive it with the roof
I
off.
always see the couple, and it's typically an older gentleman with his lady wife. Yeah. Oh, not always, but often the case. She is looking less than happy about the process of this, and the gentleman is going, I purchased a convertible. We will be using it in January.
Convertible stubbornness, for
yes,
sure.
Exactly.
Whereas this GT3 SE. So the reason a speedster makes sense is that you're removing the weight of the roof.
Yeah.
Because what you're replacing the roof with is a fabric lid that doesn't really weigh much at all. The reason I think of an SC or a GT3 convertible not working is that it's still, the SC has the folding roof mechanism from a 911 Cabrio. It's exactly the same. So you're adding weight into the mix, and you're
70 kilograms.
70 kilograms,
which is a figure to remember, because in a bit we'll reveal what the weight difference is, and you'll be. I think I was astounded. You were probably quite astounded. 70 kilograms gained, and yet the weight difference isn't that much.
Yes, exactly.
It's very impressive.
But yes, so that's the core difference really, though, is that this SC has the retractable folding top, and the reason I say it kind of tested us as journalists is because you're trying to kind of look between the lines, as you should do, of really what they're trying to get at. Yeah. So I asked Mr. Preuninger,
Mr. GT, basically, isn't he?
Why now? Why are we doing a 911 GT3 convertible? Because, Speedster has always been taking the roof off a GT3. You're compromising it. You're removing a core structural element of a car that is more track aligned and is all about lightness, and it's about obviously handling. and by taking the roof off, you're making it heavier and you're making it flabbier.
Yeah.
So why now?
Wait, he was talking about the car or me? Oh no, yeah, the car.
A bit of both.
Yeah.
But he was saying that, according to them, it's their Speedster customers were saying, we really like the idea of a convertible GT3. However, we don't like the idea of having to get out and manually fasten the roof.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the whole point of having a Speedster, is that it's special. But we're talking about people that will have a Speedster
and 200 grand
and a spare 200 grand to then go and spend on a 911 SC. So that was one thing. The second thing was that it was they had thought about this since the 997. So they had always had this idea of maybe doing a convertible GT3. They've obviously had Speedsters since 997. They did 991. We've not had one for 992 yet. But the reason it came up now is there was a gap on the supply line at their suppliers. And they
for
said
the carbon fiber, right?
For the carbon fiber bodywork. Yeah, so there was a gap on the supply line of where they could go, we need to fill this with something. And so they were like, well, now's the time to do a GT3 convertible.
Yeah.
So they had a 911 Cabriolet prototype that was going to be destroyed, because all prototypes, or most prototypes, have to be destroyed by law.
They certainly can't be sold. Some end up in museums and stuff, or just kept in a collection of someone, but like as in a person at the company. But
you think
they
how
can't
many
be sold?
How many prototypes are made for all sorts of things?
Dozens.
So they had one of those, and they also had a GT3 prototype as well that was also going to be destroyed. So they said, well, why don't we take the bits from the GT3 and put it on the Cabrio?
Yeah.
And see if it works. And it did. And then they said, there you go. There's the gap filled on the production line. We now have a 911 GT3 SC.
Yeah. And the amazing thing was that Andy, he reckoned, the genius behind Porsche GT products, boss of GT. I think that's not his official title, but effectively is.
Lord of Porsche GT products.
There we go. Andy said that he wasn't convinced it was going to work straight away, did he? He thought when we put all these, the sticky tires, the chassis, that configuration of engine into the Cabriolet body, he was like, we're going to have to do loads of work on the structure. And even he was surprised that they didn't. And he said it was because of the crash structure requirements of the modern day. Car structures are just so stiff and so strong. And I guess that is literally the last 5 years, they've improved massively.
Yeah.
That you have just lost that kind of wiggle in the structure.
The fascinating thing about it is just how plug in and play all the parts have been. So if we were to look at it, I would have already put pictures up on screen, but we'll look at it again. You'll see that it is essentially just bits of GT3 Touring and GT3 ST.
Bit of RS bodywork as well, wasn't there?
A bit of RS. Yeah. So I think it was the ST. If you look around the doors and the front wings, those are carbon. Those are taken from the ST/GT3 RS. Yeah. So you have the kind of like that cut in from the door, which looks so cool. Really, really cool. Yeah. The carbon bonnet is taken from the ST and GT3 RS. Strangely, though, do you remember Andreas was saying it was the first... It was a new carbon bonnet, and it was the first that had crash protection.
Yeah, for pedestrians.
I looked at it, though, and the GT3 RS and the ST had carbon bonnets. So what's the difference?
This was true for the entire event, and this is no discredit to the enthusiasm, but there were a lot of times where it was presented to us like a new thing, and then we realised it had already been used on other bits. Hence your parts being intro.
Yes.
Because these components did exist. It is cool, though, because it's the key thing that I remember was that it's the only production, so series production, not limited production. It's the only series production carbon fiber bonnet, because no other brands have been able to get theirs through the pedestrian safety tests as of yet. And do you remember the way Porsche got theirs through? It was
go on.
When you lifted it up, you could see inside. If you can imagine a sheet of carbon fiber, but with it was actually 2 layers really, like all metal bonnets have the same thing, where there's kind of 2 layers and there's sort of lumps and bumps where they move and whatever. In this, they had little slits, like it was almost like someone had run a Stanley knife through bits of it, which were obviously to weaken certain sections so that it would break on impact with a person, obviously. Yeah. So it passes the pedestrian safety, but it's still carbon fiber.
So it's really comfy if you get hit by it.
Oh yeah, I guess the shards of fragments of carbon fiber would also be a problem. But anyway,
so if you see one coming towards you, you'll go, "Oh no, I'm going to get hit by a regular GT." Oh, it's a 911 SC. That's got the new comfy bang.
992.2.
Yeah,
excellent.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's got that.
It's got
most of the roof comes straight from the Cabrio.
Which has what did it have
magnesium arms on
bows.
it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That was it. So it's got a beautiful shape.
Which is actually was standard on the Cabriolet. So again, that was another one where it was like, and then,
all new.
And then he was like, no,
it's
on a standard Cabriolet.
Yeah.
So again, designed to make it a little bit lighter. And most of the back end is 911 Touring.
Yeah, and that's why the downforce is the same, because they were saying less downforce in the GT3. Obviously, there's no rear wing.
Yeah.
So touring spec, but apparently it was neutral. We don't have exact numbers, but they were saying that the downforce generated on the nose is the same at the rear. I presume in a GT3 there's more at the rear? I don't know. You'd imagine it'd be neutral in that as well, but if you lost the whole wing, but they said neutral.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's
stable.
It's precisely, which is important when you're doing a million miles an hour on the autobahn. The underpinnings, I guess, is the most impressive thing is that they've taken the suspension from the 911 GT3 Touring and left it as it is. They've changed nothing. The geometry, spring rates, everything is exactly the same. And that goes back to your point of how the structure of these are so stiff now that, any time I can think of a car loses its roof, you have to basically redo the whole geometry and damping.
Typically soften it off as well.
Exactly.
For the weight. Yeah.
Yeah. Not on this though.
And that brings to the point of the weight, which is quite impressive.
Yeah.
Shall I reveal the weight?
Go for it.
So the statistic, what was the number we had? So the total weight is 1,497 kilograms. I'm saying that off the top of my head, by the way, because I've lost it in my notes, but I think I'm bang on with that. Where's it gone? There we are. Oh, yes. Bang on. 1,497 kilograms, just under 1.5 tons. But the thing that's most impressive about that is, while it is 110 kilograms heavier than an ST coupe, more interesting is the comparison with the GT3 coupe. And it's only 28 kilograms heavier than that, despite, as we said earlier, gaining 70 kilogram worth of roof and mechanism. The important thing is it's not just the roof, it's all the electrics and the pyrotechnic head, what they call the things that stop your head being chopped off.
Roll hoops,
yeah. And they fire out like a pair of metal arms pyrotechnically. That's 70 kilograms, and yet the car's only gained 28 kilograms. But again, there's a little bit of, do you know how they've done it? They've tweaked a little bit of the standard spec to ensure it.
Well, I know that it's definitely missing something.
It's
missing two rear seats.
You can gain a box, obviously, in the back.
You can gain a box, but a box weighs a lot less than chairs.
But they just... Actually, maybe does the GT3, it comes as standard, not with carbon ceramics. It's an option. To the main...
Yes, but the SC comes with them as standard.
The SC that's exactly it. And that's 20 kilograms of saving. Mm-hmm. So what they've done is they've gone, it's only gained 28 kilograms, but that's because they're comparing it to the standard GT3, which doesn't have the ceramics.
And you can have rear seats in a standard GT3 as well, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. You can. So it's a bit cheeky in the specs comparison there. They've gone, we're going to compare this heaviest version of the GT3 with the lightest it's all the lightest version of the SC. But fair play.
But at least there is, we're not talking about a wild difference here, because then at least you're driving, we would get into a standard GT3 that has steel brakes, has rear seats and go, this is a great time.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about this SC that's a smidgen heavier, but you don't have a roof, so you can hear the exhaust louder. That's the big thing.
And they haven't synthesized it. He was like, we haven't synthesized anything. We haven't changed the exhaust. All the same.
But the engine itself is pretty much lifted straight from GT3 Touring, isn't it?
9,000 RPM.
4 litre, flat
RS
6,
cranks.
510 horsepower.
Yeah.
Will sound absolutely marvellous.
Identical 0 to 62 as well, because the weight's so similar. It's 3.9 seconds to 62. And top speed of the Touring, 194 mile an hour. So it's a mile an hour quicker than the GT3.
Do you know what's also really interesting is so they've made this car for, you might consider the more casual GT3 buyer, because they don't want the extremeness of a speedster, but they want to have the roof down and still feel the wind in their hair. It's only a manual. They're not making it with the PDK, which is another way in which they've made it lighter.
That's true.
Because it's a manual gearbox is a heck of a lot lighter than a PDK box. They've also used the ST throw on it as well. So it's the gear knob is physically lower, and I think it's a shorter shift too.
Yeah.
So it is quite fun in that sense of it just being a proper part spin special, where you can literally just look at it and go, that's come from that, that's come from that, that's come from that, that's come from that. Wheels, those are from the 911 ST. They've saved Was it 9 kilos in total?
9 kilos in total, and conveniently, because it means I can remember it, they each weigh 9 kilograms.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's 9 kg saved and a 9 kg wheel.
And they had one that we could lift, and I was able to lift it up.
Yeah, it was very light.
Which is how light it is.
And that was without the tyre. I think the stats without the tyre, but it would be the same because the tyre, they're both Cup 2s, aren't they? Or the Pirelli or whatever equivalent. Yeah,
exactly.
But the clutch was different to the ST.
Yes, because the ST's got a fancy clutch, is it not?
Yeah, it's got
and
like a lightweight. It's a single oh god, this is testimonial.
It's got single mass flywheel.
Yeah. This is dual mass, so it's much easier to use in traffic. So you won't embarrass yourself every time you pull away, and you won't destroy the clutch if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
This is much more forgiving, like a normal GT3.
Precisely.
There you go.
Other look changes. It's got the black kind of matte black shroud to the windscreen. So the idea is to make it look at, because we looked at it and we were like, have you done a new windscreen?
Yeah.
It looks really low. And he's like, oh, it's trick of the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a matte shroud around the windscreen. I would say it looks great, but I think when you do get up close to it, and so what they had is you're right, they had these two specs. They had the standard GT3 S C, and then they also had, what was the other one called? The street
spec.
The street spec, which was basically like a jazzed up version with all the options.
It was very tartan inside.
It was
Jackie Stewart.
It had leather tartan.
If someone skinned Jackie Stewart while he was dressed and laid him out in the interior of a 911, that's what you'd get. They should have called it
Jackie spec. They should have called it the Jackie spec. It was so tartan, even the interior, even the inside of the glove compartment was tartan.
Yeah, it was a Jackie special. I forgot.
Which is funny, when you had all the journalists looking around it, it was the bit that got people the most excited is when the glove box opened and went, oh, you've got a leather weave tartan glove box. That car, the street pack, style pack, whatever, that had a prototype kind of bin in it, for storage bin. So it was kind of like a flat shelf behind the seats with two lids on top. It was inspired by previous cabriolets.
964s.
964, that's it.
993 as well, apparently.
Where it was behind the rear seats, you had doors that opened, and he said, it's such a pain in the ass. Why aren't the openings on the top? That's what old Preuninger does. He goes in and he just makes everything seem so obvious. Like why aren't we doing this?
Yeah.
And so it looked quite smart in that. When you go back to the regular GT3 SC, there's a big old gap where the rear seats are, and it looks a bit awkward.
It just looks unfinished because there's just lumps where seats go, but there's no seat in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Weird.
I mean, are people going to care? No, even a little bit. But I mean, that's just my opinion from being on the ground, is that it kind of, from some angles, it just looked like almost like a pickup. There's just this big gap between the rear seats, and it was like,
because he liked the idea, and I'm sure he thought of it, but he said he hadn't. When we suggested, why don't you replace the box with a couple of nets for helmets? He was like, good idea.
Really?
So if that goes in, you know it was a PistonHeads edition. It should be called the PH net.
I missed that. I can't lay claim to saying that then. But this is why he liked us so much.
He said, God, motoring journalists are normally like you guys. We're like, really?
Yeah, he was like, you guys are genuine friends, and then came down and had a massive long chat with us about E46 M3s.
Hour and a bit, wasn't it?
Oh, he was
great guy.
Yeah. Andy, we want you on the pod so freaking bad. But the only thing I would say, so looking at it, I think it does make sense from, there is a gap for a GT3 convertible. I think the way they've gone about it makes a lot of sense. I think it looks like an interesting product. It's not limited by production. So whereas Speedsters have been limited before, this isn't.
Series.
It's not a series production cut. So you can buy as many as you want. Of course, you're going to need to get an invite there. I mean, like a GT3 is not limited by production, but it is. Yeah, you can, providing you're chummy with your dealer, you can go and buy one. It's £200,500.
£200,500. I'm just going to scroll up. Yes,
that's it. Before options, so that all makes sense. It did, however, scream to me. We've known there's been some recent news from Porsche that they've gone. Obviously, they've ever since the new CEO's come in, we are completely changing our trajectory from what was before go big on EV. Now they've gone, we really need high margin specials, and they say that they're mulling a flagship supercar above, or flagship sports car above 911, but they're also kind of these high margin cars. When I saw this, I was like, that's exactly what this is. The first car of that is one of these high margin cars, because it's like and it makes sense. You know, if you're going to do it, go and get loads of parts bin stuff, chuck it on a Cabrio, see if it works, and you know, we'll have to take Andreas for his word, at least for the moment, and them saying we managed to put everything on. It all worked really well. It's this and that. You know, I mean, we have no reason to believe it won't, because Porsche's made some fantastic products in the last many, many, many years. So, yeah, I mean, if this is what the future of Porsche is going to be, and just giving us more GT alternatives, then I'm all for it. Yeah,
as long as it trickles down to, because the only thing is £200,000, and I know GT3s are a fair bit less than that, aren't they? And of course, you can still pick up. I mean, it's 100k now just to get a 911, really, isn't it? So they all start from quite high up, but as long as we still, you know, they don't forget about us I say us, I haven't got a Porsche, but I dream of owning a Cayman or a Boxster one day, you know, as long as there's still that attainable product at the bottom, you know, they don't forget about us with, I guess, their smaller margins down that end of the market, then I'm all for it.
Well, there's obviously Boxster and Cayman was meant to be
EV.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been reading so many conflicting reports on this, of where stuff's come out and said, the EV's dead, we're now doing combustion engines. I've now read that that's not the case, that they're still doing an EV version of it.
It's just that both, right?
Maybe combustion versions will be, and just the amount of re-engineering of that just seems astonishing to make that work. But so it's very likely that we will be catered for with those sorts of cars. It's just, it will be very, very far into the future. We're talking about next, I don't know, many years, half a decade at least, I think, to get that sort of stuff through. So, but when you're there, you feel like you're in the presence of a proper GT car. It looks like the real deal.
Yeah.
But the thing that really stood out to me as we were walking around it is that Mr. Preuninger said, I'm a Cabriolet guy through and through. I'm first and foremost a Cabriolet guy. And that stayed with me, and I was like, that does not make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
So after we had our little walk around, I cornered him while he was having lunch, and he looked genuinely shocked that I'd walked over, and then more shocked that I didn't want to ask him lots of industry questions, but I wanted to know what was in his garage.
Yeah.
So I said, what's this Cabriolet that you drive? I didn't realise. And he's like, oh, I've got he bought a 993 Carrera S. I think it was a Carrera S Cabrio, and has, I was going to say slowly made it. He said it wasn't slow. He bought it and just took it straight to GT and got them to do everything perfectly. Everything on that Cabriolet is 911 parts. He didn't tell me exactly which bit was what, but he's like, I just picked basically the best of everything he could find to put it on his 993 Cabrio, and he's had it for 20 years. I think had it for a very, very long time, and absolutely adores it.
And the thing I loved is I was like, oh, have you got, because he's changed, I think he has pole positions in it. Yeah, he does.
Yes.
Because I was like, I've got pole positions in my Clio. So I pretended I had like the same. And to be fair, he was like, oh, that's very cool. But I said, oh, have you got like a smaller racing steering wheel? Porsche's got plenty of options from, track spec steering wheels to choose from. And he went, no, I've got the standard, because it's quite a big wheel on that car with the oblong centre. He's like, no, I've got a standard wheel. I wanted to keep the airbag. I've got normal seat belts. So it's like extreme and clearly track capable, but still also very usable daily car if he wanted it to be.
It's extremely cool. Then I asked him, what else are you driving? What else is in the garage? I was not prepared. I'm glad I was sat down for this, because I was not prepared for what his response would be. The first car was, he goes, well, my daily driver is really a Dodge Ram.
Very unpredictable.
What?
Yeah.
He's got a Dodge Ram. And I said, for the boss of Porsche GT to have a Dodge Ram is ludicrous. And he goes, well, I won't do the accent. He said, well, I like doing dirt bikes. He goes, me and my family, we like going dirt bike riding. And he goes, and if you've got a Cayenne with a trailer on the back and you take that on the Autobahn, you're limited to 80 kilometers an hour. So you can't really, so he's like, so it takes forever. Whereas if you've got a Dodge Ram that's a pickup, you could put the bikes in the back, and there's no speed limit. You can go as fast as you want.
Because of the trailer, just to clarify. Yeah, it's not the Cayenne that's limited. It's the trailer.
It's the trailer that limits the speed.
Yeah. Whereas the Dodge Ram, you're just a Dodge Ram.
And you'll see that's the signs at the side of the, if you're going through an area, Europe does like to peg caravans back, because everybody in Europe loves a caravan.
Oh, yeah.
So he drives a Dodge Ram, was not expecting that. And so I was like, okay, well, what's the next project then? If you've done this 993 Cabriolet, what's the next project that you're going to get? And he's like, do you know the Ferrari Daytona in Miami Vice? Mm-hmm. I said, the Ferrari Daytona that wasn't a Ferrari Daytona that they had to blow up because it wasn't a Ferrari Daytona. And he goes, yeah, it's the I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's based on a Corvette, a Chevrolet Corvette underneath. And so I said, yeah, I know the one. He goes, I want one of those. So why on earth would you want a replica of a Ferrari 365 Daytona? And he said, well, he just, first of all, loves Miami Vice, just thinks it's so cool. He says that the proportions of the replica are actually better than the real thing. And I was like, okay, right. And he goes, and just finally, I just think they're really cool. So you'd have a Corvette V8 in it. So his idea is he wants to find one of those and like...
Were there many around? How can you find one of these?
They are apparently quite rare.
I bet.
Is that what it was? Something Surge something, I think.
Because these are all they're just finished to look at the Miami Vice ones. Oh, but that'll be it, won't it? But that's from the show.
Crockett's Daytona. Yeah, they blew it up. So that's the actual one from the show.
But I guess they didn't blow them all up. So there probably was a real one, and then they blew up another one.
What was?
Talking of blowing up cars, I always think of the Italian job when they knocked the cars off the mountain.
Oh, that was pain because they were legit ones, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, there are no engines in them.
So they were based on they were built by a chap called Tom McBurney.
That feels appropriate for a car that's going to get blown up.
It really does.
McBurney.
Yeah, it's just it's all right.
Was he named by a British vote? What should we call the guy who's going to blow up the cars?
It's
McBurn man or something.
It's
Bernie McBurn.
It just kind of like, we've got to think of the most British name for this guy.
Tom McBurney.
But so yes, McBurney Coachcraft created these replicas, and the thing is that they do look not slightly really like different. They do not look exactly like a Daytona.
If you're drunk and looking at a Daytona, it looks like you're drunk looking at Daytona.
The thing is, back in the 80s, you would have been like, that kind of works.
Yeah.
But also the other thing to think about is there's a picture of, I've got pictures of a legitimate Daytona Spider versus the replica.
Yeah.
And you can see that the wheels stick out quite far on the replica. So they're kind of inboard and very slimline on the regular Daytona. On the other one, you're looking at one from an actual Miami, from Vice City.
I have just discovered, oh my God, for those who ever played Grand Theft Auto Vice City, the Daytona in that, now I would never notice this, and I've only just learned this, look at the wheel arches. It's based on Crockett's fake Daytona, not an actual Daytona.
That is
and
cool.
To the extent where the headlight sizes are because they're slightly bigger headlights, aren't they? I think on the fake one, and the wheel arch extensions.
That's it.
So the Vice City Daytona, which many of us would have played and gone, oh, this is based on a Ferrari Daytona, is not based on a Daytona. It's based on the McBurney.
That is so funny.
I love that.
I hadn't noticed the makeshift wheel arches.
Yeah,
but to be fair to Mr. Preuninger, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm worried that it's I think it's cool because Andreas Preuninger has said that it's cool.
Yeah.
So we did find ourselves actually, because this was the first time I'd met Andy.
Me too.
Yeah. And so we kind of found ourselves, it's almost like you're in the presence of an all-knowing being. And so you just you're asking questions to see what they think about stuff. So you were asking him quite extensively about the iX3's steering.
Well, I was feeling quite damaged because my iX3 video review even on PistonHeads had gone live a few days prior, and I'd put in that, and I stand by this statement, that it doesn't have any steering feel. That's not to knock the car. It doesn't need steering feel. An iX3, who cares about iX3s having steering feel? Nobody. But I put in, because it's for PistonHeads, I said it doesn't have any steering feel, and I did get a little bit of a hammering from a few people who said they'd watched some other videos saying they do have steering feel. I can stand by my statement. They don't. And I came at Andy and said, I've been noticing how people sort of use the term steering feel for cars that don't have steering feel quite often these days. And I could see him agree. Like, before I'd finished my sentences, he was passionately nodding and like, yes, I agree with you. And I was like, every time I get into a Porsche, I've got this, even the modern Porsches, electrically assisted ones, I have this kind of palate cleanser as far as steering feel goes. You could do the same if you got in a Caterham, but a Porsche is slightly easier to live with if it's got seatbelts and a roof. And I was like, it's my palate cleanser. How do you achieve steering feel in even your big electric SUVs, which, you know, other brands have gone, it's not worth it, and understandably so. And he came at me with quite a long quote, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but effectively the key line was, Porsche does things the opposite way around to all other brands, you know, in this world. I'm sure he's not talking about McLaren and Ferrari, but certainly BMW and other brands of that kind of ilk. And he said that when Porsche develops a new platform with a steering system, you know, a new system for that, they will have just a very bare bones mechanical steering setup that they engineer in the platform to be the way they want it to feel. And then they'll add in the safety systems, then they'll add in the rubberizations and stuff like that for comfort and NVH, etc. And then they just try and retain as much of the original feel that they had in the mechanical setup. And he said most other brands, what they do is they build the setup from the beginning with all the NVH and all the rubberizations in it already. So they already come in with a softened, less feelsome setup, and they just haven't got as much to claw back, or they haven't got the desire to claw back as much. So, because they never had it in the first place. And so he said a lot of cars, they'll say they have steering feel because they add a lot of weight into the steering, which I totally agree with. I think a lot of people say, oh, this has steering feel. They're actually talking about weight, and weight isn't feel. You know, ask a Formula One driver. There isn't any weight. The steering is light in a Formula One car. You know, that you see them steering with one hand. The Aston Martin drivers famously at the moment are steering with one hand because the other one's gone numb from the vibration.
They used to do it with the F-Duct as well, where they have one hand on the side of the cockpit.
Weight doesn't mean feel. Weight is a different thing, and it's entirely possible to have light steering that has lots of feel. And in Porsche's cases, they're not light, but it's not heavy, and it has tons of feel. And he was really, really happy to hear me say that. And then he went into this whole description of how they do it. And, you know, there are things in the GT department in particular where they can kind of cheat a little bit, cheat in inverted commas, you know, rose jointed bushing, and there's a less requirement for NVH. You know, if you've done a long distance drive in a Cayman GT4 RS or a GT4, you know, they're not the most comfortable thing. They feel quite track car-y in many ways. So you do compromise in other ways to gain that feel. But also, you know, from my Cayenne electric drive where I drove the turbo, that is a car that's really comfortable in air suspension, but has a ton of steering feel. So it's kind of like win-win. I mean, you do have to spend 130k to achieve that, but it, you know, comfortable, easy to live with, easy-ish to drive in town. It is massive, but it's got all-wheel steering, so it shrinks a bit. But then you have so much steering feel. And it's just amazing to hear how, you know, he was discussing the team they have and how everyone in the team agrees on these key things when it comes to steering feel, brake pedal feel, and just accelerator response, even in EVs. There's no discussion on it. They all agree. And he said other brands, you'll have people coming in saying, oh, well, you know, some of our customers want a slightly different feel in this and that and the other. And he basically said, we engineer cars for us, the team that makes them, which is a small number in some. I think there's, you know, a few dozen obviously eventually, but a small number on the initial conception. They engineer it from themselves, and he said his words were, "It's just a nice coincidence that our customers agree with us."
That's why it's such a joy to talk to him. Is that you get, you know, we've spoken to so many executives from car companies and some very, very intelligent engineers and you know, highly regarded engineers. And when you talk to them, especially at events like this, they are always in PR mode. Yeah, they're always telling you. They're always very nice. They're always very informative. But you know that, like, they have the script in their head of what they've got to say. But when it almost feels like the opposite of when you're talking to Andy Preuninger. I think if you went up to him and just went, "How's your day going?" he would have no interest in talking to you whatsoever. But it was when you come in with this really nerdy stuff and you want to know, he lives and breathes this. He absolutely lives and breathes it, and it's not a day job for him.
No.
And just feeling that. Someone who's just so sure of where these products should go and what they mean to his lot and you know us as drivers is it was fascinating. It was so great to get some time with them and see this new GT3 SC. Interested to see what it's going to be like to drive and how it's received.
Can I quickly throw in my shoe size fact that I find really fun?
Oh yeah.
I asked Andy, I said, why don't you do your pedal setups in your GT models, especially with the PDK cars, like McLaren does, where the pedals fall naturally under your feet, like a go-kart's pedals, but obviously closer together. So left foot braking is more natural than right foot braking. So much so that in McLarens, even in slow traffic, you typically use your left foot to brake because it's just more comfortable and it's easier to do and it feels perfect. And I said, why don't you do that in your Porsche PDK cars? Is it because it's just expensive to redevelop a pedal setup? And he said, no, it's because our customers have to fit, well, our demands from customers are much wider. And the average shoe size of our customers, I think this is in US shoe size, but it's similar in the UK, isn't it? He goes, this is an 8.5 to an 11. That's the average foot size. And he says that most people are used to driving, you know, cars where they're braking with their right foot all the time. So that's why, if you're wondering, they've got a wider expectation, they've got a wider customer base than your average McLaren buyer, apparently.
I just feel like we could do an Ask Andy tech support thing where we just ask him loads of questions and then get the be-all and end-all answer. We have a post by Gster169 and they say, I've a Merc CLS and I'm looking to change it for something sportier as a daily driver. I've got £30,000 and I'm considering a Maserati Ghibli, spelt Ghibli, a Bentley Continental GT and a Porsche Macan, which I'm assuming is a Macan. Mileage will be around 14,000 per year. It's just for me and the missus. I like a large boot for cases, etc. Ideally a car with an actual spare tyre. Any ideas greatly appreciated. Short but sweet, this one. We very rarely see. Sometimes I read these and I have to trim them down because they're like a small Bible. So nice, short, sweet. Sam, you've got 30k.
Yeah.
What have you found?
So the first one is not correct for this person, but I'm just going to mention it because I really want one. 30k, you can get a BMW i8 these days.
Isn't that wild?
Isn't that wild? Great daily driver because it has genuinely really good MPG. Looks like a exotic supercar from the future.
And it's in that dark. That one's in the dark grey, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah. All right. 32,875 on this one, so call it 33 grand. A little bit over budget, but 51,000 miles. The issue with this is boot space because it doesn't have a front boot because of the electric motor. You got a boot at the back, but could you get a suction cupped, or some kind of roof rack on it? Maybe. I really want one of these, and if you look at the finance for a used car, you're like, it's quite a sensible buy potentially.
Do you remember the roof boxes that they made for Koenigsegg's? I think like the Agera.
Were they suckered on?
They were. I can't remember, but they were very streamlined.
Yeah.
So they did I think they did it might be Thule, but I can't remember. Apologies if you work for the roof box that did them, but they were very, very, very streamlined. So they were they looked like they were kind of like an organic addition to the car.
Yeah.
I feel like those would work perfectly on that i8 because if you put that on, because it's such a smooth and round and streamlined car.
I want one so much.
That's a really cool idea.
Well, just because they're so fuel efficient. Like I was dreaming about this the other day when I was driving in my Mazda, and I was like, I'll probably get better MPG out. My Mazda's perfectly fine on MPG, but I was like, I'll probably get better MPG out of an i8. But anyway, that's a silly suggestion. There's no space.
This is what motoring life is like in your 30s. We're now getting to the point of where we go, I like the idea of something that's more economical.
It's sensible.
You go, no, get out of my head.
And I just love the design and the carbon and they're so cool. They're so cool. On the complete end, and that is,
speaking of fuel efficiency,
that's an asterisk. Yeah, speaking of fuel efficiency. Well, I've traded fuel efficiency, but I've got your space. So
yes,
this still. I mean, I'm going to have to scroll. This hasn't had. Are they really this cheap still? 27 grand, £5 less than 27 grand, and it's a 29,496 miler. It says 0 previous owners, so apparently this is being sold from its original owner. I have chosen an E60 BMW M5, which means you have got a V10 engine under the bonnet.
It kind of annoys me because you've beaten me on cylinders.
Yeah, and I just love these. I've loved these from day one. I always loved the design. I know they didn't get the best reaction initially. I think they look great, and I always have. They've grown on me, and I loved them first time out. Amazing engine. Links to Formula One. I don't know how close the links are, but it was back in the Williams BMW era. It's cool. It's great. It has a lot of space. It's an expensive daily. It potentially could bankrupt you. But it's relatively practical because it's a 5 Series.
Do you know what? That's actually relative. So I was just having a look through the PistonHeads auctions because we've had a lot of E60 M5s go through auctions and sell. Remarkably, so this one that you're looking at is 26,995 with only 29,495 miles on it.
And according to this, it's coming from its first owner.
We had an E60 M5 sell on PH last year, about 6 months ago, with over double the mileage, but it still had its manufacturer's warranty and sold for the same amount of money.
Wow.
Which is it was crazy that it still has a manufacturer warranty
Yeah.
at 21 years old.
I don't want to know how much that cost to extend.
But we also had an M5 Touring that had 103,000 miles on it, which sold for just shy of 24 grand as well. So they're getting strong money.
Yeah.
So for 26,995 to get it's a pre-facelift, but there's that 3-month warranty on there.
Yeah.
If you go and buy it, and yes, it's going to be a bit thirsty, and it's going to be a bit. Well, just make sure you get it serviced when you should get it serviced.
Yeah.
But then you'll have a V10 M5,
and don't watch
you will
Chris
be
Harris's,
the coolest person ever.
Don't watch Harris's videos on his. When he took one in, he was like, "Oh, I'll just get a quick job done." He's like, everything needs changing. But what a car!
Very, very cool.
Talking of lots of car or lots of engine. I don't know tons about these, although I did drive a Camaro in Texas a couple of years ago, but it was just a V6. But I have picked out, for £29,950, a Chevrolet Camaro 2SS RS. Now, I have to admit, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to what that means, but it has got a 6.2 litre V8, 405 horsepower. I mean, it's going to sound amazing, literally. And also, it's clearly been cherished. I mean, it looks great. 2 previous owners, MOT'd until November. It says excellent overall condition. That's
only 100 horsepower less than what Mercedes managed to get out of a 6.2 litre V8. So by American standards, that's actually quite impressive. So it's silver with black stripes. I actually think these are quite cool.
I think it's so cool. I
do think these are quite cool. I think they're cooler than a Dodge Challenger.
Yeah. I mean, the interior. Okay, when you get inside the interior, oh god, yeah, that is not the greatest interior, but it's okay.
They were never known for their interior quality.
It's quite plasticky, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So,
but you're buying an engine.
This is the same manufacturer as Vauxhall.
Yeah.
At the time, precisely.
Yeah.
So, but I think the exterior design is really fantastic,
and
I think it's aged really well. And I think this is one of these kind of. It was around that time of when the muscle car was getting reinvigorated. It's when what year is this? 2014. Okay, so Challenger had been around for a while.
It's been listed.
The Mustang had obviously been around for the kind of new shape Mustang launched in 2004, I think. So or when they went back to a more conventional shape. So it's a cool shout. Yeah,
cool car. Going to cost you a lot of money. Something a bit more sensible, but actually quite rare on our roads. Something I always quite liked. Kia Stinger GT with the V6.
Big time.
It's 2020 car.
GTS, yeah.
GTS even, sorry. Yeah, you're right. And it's 28,850. It's a sensible spec. Do I see a pano and reclining sunroof there? Yeah, look, it's got a nice spec on it, hasn't it? And it's 2 previous owners. Sensible car. This feels like a mature buy.
I like an obscure engine size, Sam.
Yeah.
I like when I look at something and I go, that's not the sort of numbers I would see after the point. This is a 3.3 litre V6. How often do you see a 3.3 litre?
Yeah.
Not often. I've driven one of these many times, and they are hilariously oversteer prone.
Yeah.
Like they just love getting their arse out.
Yeah.
And
it's the Kardashian of Kias.
It is the Kardashian of Kias, and it's it looks great. They sound very muted. I think they're in dire need of a good a freer flowing exhaust system. But look fantastic. This is when Kia started getting good. Chassis done by Albert Biermann, former M-Boss, Hyundai N-Boss. Really good cars. And holding their money extremely well. These tanked
it's the rarity, isn't it?
Very quickly and then have stuck. They're a bit like one of the cars on my list. In fact, I'm just going to jump straight into it. Speaking of cars that tank in value and then just stop, number one is a 2009 Lexus ISF.
Oh, yeah.
I may have bought an ISF up before in a previous podcast because I think they're fantastic, I would like one very much.
Yeah.
This is a 2009 car. It's a JDM though. Did the JDMs come with a limited slip diff? No, I don't think they did. I think they were exactly the same as the ones that came over here in England. So they were. The launch cars were known for being a bit firm and in need of a slippy diff. However, if you're wanting a facelift ISF, you're going to be paying 30 odd, if not more. I found this one for 19,995, 60,000 miles, and it's in the right colour. It's blue, although they do look great in black. And I think you could get them in a pearly white as well. That was really nice.
Blue on red, though. It looks quite nice, doesn't it?
Blue on red, finish. So it's
red
got
interior.
part red leather seats, which won't be to everybody's taste, but you have a 5-litre naturally aspirated V8 up front, and once that's singing, you won't care. Also, on we've been talking about the 911 GT3 SC. You know how on the GT3 RS and the SC they have that kind of cutaway.
Yeah.
It's on the front wing with the door. It's exactly the same on ISF.
It looks properly purposeful. I guess that's exhaling air from the wheel well or something.
Yes, and just to look freaking cool.
And it's got stacked exhausts. Forgot about that.
Stacked exhaust. I absolutely adore these, and I know a lot of other people do as well. They will be thirsty, but this is, obviously Lexus, Toyota, famous for its engineering and reliability, and this V8 is one of the very best of the 21st century, I think. Yeah, fantastic car, fantastic engine. If, however, you would like to roll the dice a little bit more with running costs and reliability, I have found an Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio for $29,989. I believe this makes it one of the cheapest quads on the market. I think they're just starting to dip below 30 now. Yeah. And boy, what a lot of car for 30 grand.
They now at this price as well, actually. I know it's a 2018, but like the infotainment and stuff, people moan about it. I still see people moaning about it now, and fair enough, because if you're going to live with the car every day, it does feel last decade. But when you're at this price point, you're like, it doesn't really matter anymore.
Who cares? Yeah. It's got Apple CarPlay on it. That is the most important thing. Just run everything off that. Who cares if it's a little bit laggy? Many good things have been said about the 2.9 litre twin turbo V6 in this. You're getting 500 horsepower. That is 100 horsepower more than your Chevrolet with half the capacity.
And this will be a bit lighter, I presume.
It should be lighter.
And it will definitely feel lighter, because the fabulous thing about these is they drive like a 4-door Ferrari. And they've got that lovely suppleness.
And the other thing as well, they have the presence of a 4-door Ferrari. They do. One of my neighbours has one, and I'm still slack-jawed every time I see it. They are fantastic. 29,989, 70,000 miles, 2 previous owners, and a full service history.
Lovely. And one of the best gearbox shift paddle setup in the game.
Yeah, and I think
clack aluminium. Oh,
yeah. I know you're a fan of a click.
I love a click clack.
On a Giulia quad. This one, I think, really fits the bill of what they're after. Yeah. However, because they've mentioned a Maserati Ghibli on their list, so I feel like they are willing to again roll the dice. How about this though? 2014 Jaguar XFR-S.
Oh, they look so good.
29,925. Oh boy! I mean, these are. We actually saw one. Well, we saw an XKRS out in Germany, didn't we?
Yes.
When we did
Porsche. We did. You're right. We were following it for a bit. Yeah.
This is maybe why the idea has popped into my head. This is it's a grey example, so it's not in the shouty blue.
It's in like, is it just me, or is it like a tinge of green on that grey, or is it just because it's parked in a slight wooded area?
Yeah, either that or something's severely wrong with your eyes.
Slight green tinge to it. It's a grey, but it's got a bit more colour to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so it's. I mean, you were talking about 542 brake horsepower. So this is the most powerful of the ones that I have. 5-litre V8. It's a properly good engine, this. And 3 previous owners, 59,000 miles, 29,925. The really cool thing with the XF is, though, not just have you got the awesome...
Better handling than a 5 Series? Or
great handling. Great looks, and then these look like proper, almost skunk works.
Yeah, they do.
It's if TWR had made it,
Awesome design.
But they have great interiors because they've got the little pop-out theatrical, vents that rotate on the dash. They've got the rotating drive selector. Absolutely adore these, and the facelifted version, which is this one is based off, looked the most like the original XF concept, which is really nerdy. But
I just think everything on that,
great
proportions, the wing on the back, the wing on the back there, that could have really ruined quite an elegant car, but it just works.
It does.
That front intake setup on the bumpers, the wheels, the stance, it's such a pretty car.
There is something extremely old school about it in the sense that it does look like if it's kind of in those old TWR tuned, when they did the original XJ, when they did the XJS, if Well, I mean, TWR, I mean, they're not far away from me. I would love to see you do another take on some other Jags other than the XJS. So, yeah, that's the car I'm going to put forward. I think it's brilliant. I love it.
That is a tough one to beat because that is lovely. I'm now looking at that. Oh, I think I'll go with, do you know what, wild card. Let's go with an E60 M5.
Yeah,
Sod it.
I don't think. I think that's the first time we've had an E60 M5
because it's not normally a very sensible choice.
Not
And
usually
it isn't
the
in this
sensible
case
choice. But when you went, no, he's going for a Jag. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go for a V10. So
I was like, the Stinger is the sensible choice, but where's the fun in that?
also,
Well, it is fun.
you've got 500 horsepower.
Yes.
So you are up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
And the V8 makes a wonderful sound. But
yeah. So there you have it. Those
V10.
are our two. Yeah, about to say it was V10. Those are your two picks. So if you like what we've done, we will have a poll going out on Spotify. You can pick my car, or you can pick Sam's car, or if you think it was totally rubbish, go onto the PistonHeads homepage and go and click on the topic. You can pop your own suggestions in there. If you've got a car that you'd like to sell, you can pop it in there, or better yet, maybe put it on PistonHeads auctions and see how much you can get. We've had loads of Jags on there, so go and have a look, see what you might be able to get for it, or just pick up the phone, have a chat with our consigners and see what we can do. Last but not least, I'm so glad that we've got round to this. I can't believe it's taken us this long to do this topic. This one has been started by Blue Haddock, and they say, following on from a post elsewhere in the forum about driving a Reliant Robin down through Africa, I was thinking about crap cars that you have a soft spot for. My great uncle Rolly had a light blue Reliant Rialto. That is a bit of a tongue twister. I'm trying to say that a lot. That we went on some amazing family days out in back in the early to mid 80s, and I've thought about buying one to relive those days. Great suggestion.
Can I just shout out? I just googled Reliant Rialto, and there's a dodgy Charger that was on an old Shed of the Week on PistonHeads from 2015, and it's got a Dodge Charger. I guess that was the
Dukes of
70s.
Hazzard.
Yeah, the 70s orange with the number. Three-wheeler dressed up to look like that. That is, and it's got two bonnet scoops.
You know the flag on the roof's got a bit of negative connotations now, right?
Yes.
Could you imagine driving around in a Reliant Robin now with
that?
Because you'd anger so many people, and the annoying thing is they could just go and roll you over really easily. So they wouldn't be able to see the flag anymore, but you would feel like...
Oh, the comments are brilliant. No, seriously, no. Anyway, for anyone on the internet right now, worth a search.
Well, they've also said, I've also considered buying a Fiat 126...
Oh, those are cool.
As our neighbour, when growing up, had one which I loved to bits as a kid. I also got a soft spot for Citroen 2 CVs. So what? Oh God, Bernie 78. Two friends and I bought this for the value of a number plate back in 2017, and I think certainly before they became cool-ish, and it's an Austin Allegro.
Yeah. Did they become cool?
Was that an Allegro or is that a Princess?
I think it's the image.
That's an Allegro.
It's
an Allegro because it's a two-door.
Oh yeah.
Are they cool? Are they becoming cool? Similarly, I bought this for a friend's 40th Austin Rover only road trip to Wales. Oh my God! A friend's 40th Austin Rover only road trip. That is brilliant. Let me know if you made it. Was stolen from outside my partner's house Christmas 2023 and recovered 4 days later, saved. So you can't really part with it. It's pretty much worthless.
That's Joyriders, that is. My parents had a Mark III Fiesta nicked outside their house twice, and Joyriders stole it. First time recovered, second time didn't.
That is, and it's got the aero wheels before Tesla did aero wheels. Look at those. Oh, yeah. Those can't be. Those look like the sort that Captain Scarlet had on his...
Those are they're really cool, yeah.
I can't remember what the Captain Scarlet car was called, but that thing.
There's a rotten I live near a rotten Montego. It's parked outside and the interior is very mouldy.
Andy B28 wants a Lada Niva. I think everyone's got a secret soft spot for a Lada Niva.
Yeah, some of these aren't crap. Some of these are really cool.
A new Lada Riva, because they produced them well up until about... Yes,
it was right next to the Porsche place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
These aren't even any 1980s Alfa Romeo. These aren't crap. I mean, crap by Rust standards, but
yeah, I think maybe we're the wrong. Maybe it's our kind of age group that look at that and go, I just thought they were cool.
I thought they were cool. Yeah,
absolutely. Austin Princess by Entropy. Probably my first memory of a car They were everywhere and had a distinctive wedge design, and usually in beige, dark orange, or yellow. If I see a picture of one, I instinctively go back in time to 1983, being very little, walking to town with my mum and baby brother in a pram and seeing princesses everywhere. I thought they were cool, and I think I still have my yellow Matchbox toy. I went to see an Austin Princess at. They've got one on display at the Beauty Motor Museum, and I walked. They've got a section called. My dad had one of those, and you walk through it, and the first car's an Austin Princess, and my dad's dad, my grandpa, had an Austin Princess, and we looked into the interior, and there was exposed cables everywhere, and God. I said to him, I was like, were they like this in period? And he was like, yep.
Yeah, they were.
They were
all Friday builds.
Imagine if you had your kid in front, and they just went, I'm just going to pull all these cables. Yeah. My parents had a metallic green Austin Princess. Yeah, another one. Yeah, that was Arnold Cunningham. There's a lot of princess love here. I've always lusted after a Jensen Healey, Mr. Squarekins.
Can I just shout? Somebody, Red White Monkeys called out the Fiat Multipla.
I agree.
But I mean, it was genius packaging.
It was, 3 seats up front,
horrendous.
3 seats at the back.
As long as you're blind, it's a really good looking car, really.
That was one of the cars that was everywhere in my school.
Yeah, it was.
Going up, and all the parents had Fiat Multiplas, and I did think they were actually pretty cool. One of the parents had a Chrysler PT Cruiser, and they weren't cool. So, Sam, what have you got to chip in?
Well, mine are inspired by my love of motor racing, because and it shows you win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Big influence.
Yeah. I really like, despite that famous farmer who used to present a television show, really disliking them, I really like some of the Vauxhall Vectras because of the BTCC.
Yeah.
Because I just loved watching, especially the Ivan Muller era and James Thompson, which was actually the later cars. I think they were Astras actually as one point. Yeah. Which also I kind of like because of the racing. But we just both were falling over the picture of a Vectra GSI V6. So a 90s.
They were cool. Those were the kind of the BTCC road going on. I don't know if the racers had V6s, because I know the Fords did.
I think I saw an image that said they did, but either way, they just look so cool. And obviously the V6 in the road car, they're probably rubbish to drive, but they look cool.
They do look quite cool. It's funny you say that, because I was a big fan of, I think you and I would have been on opposing teams in BTCC, because I was a big fan of the MG ZTs.
I like the black and green ones.
The black and greens.
I did like those.
Yeah, Warren Hughes, Colin Turkington, Anthony Reid.
Yeah,
that was my I absolutely loved that era. And so the Vauxhalls for me were always the bad guys. However, one of the ones I was going to include on this list was the Astra 888 edition.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I do remember that.
It's basically, the way I like to think of it is, it's the poor man CLK DTM.
It's a coupe, isn't it?
It's the coupe.
Yeah, so I think that coupe shape's amazing.
They did the coupe, but they put some BTCC bits on it, which was cool. And then they put in an interior that was a bit of its time.
And then there was
very cool.
Well, they were. And actually, funnily enough, I still remember what the interior of a Vectra smells like, because my dad, being a mechanic, used to bring home customer cars, and sometimes he'd buy something for a few £100 and then sell it later on. And they had I guess it would have been a late 90s Vectra, had that material. I don't know what it is. It wasn't velour, but it was quite soft, and there were little dots in the fabric. So it actually had a texture. So it didn't feel cheap. Yeah, and they always had, the Vauxhalls had a certain smell. Anyone who knows what I'm talking about will probably be going, yes, they do. Everyone else won't have a clue what I'm talking about. They had a smell, certainly in the 90s, maybe in the early noughties, that was noticeably Vauxhall. But I also saw very recently, 4 or 5 days ago on the motorway, a relatively unmolested Vectra VXR, the one with the big open-eyed face, the later 2000s car, also raced in the BTCC.
Yes, I remember that.
And I was like, I haven't seen one of those for a while.
Fabrizio Giovanardi.
Quite cool. Yeah, that was
Chucking it up the inside of people. Yeah.
He's making his comeback almost, wasn't he? Because he'd come from the WTCC.
That's right,
that was
it. Yeah.
And I was like, I think that looks quite cool.
Yeah.
I quite liked it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I thought those were pretty cool, actually. I think it was maybe... I always associated kind of Vauxhalls as the bad guy car.
Yeah.
I think it's because Jason Plato, who I think is an absolute dude, but he'll admit he liked to be the pantomime villain in BTCC and winding people up.
He definitely used other cars as brakes.
Oh, absolutely.
There were many times where he was not applying maximum brake pressure while rear-ending another car.
On another note, he's team boss this year. I'm genuinely so happy to see that he's back in BTCC and as a team boss. So that is really, really rad. On that note, actually, Zafira VXRs on my list.
Oh yeah,
they are I just think they're just so silly.
They are.
I miss Vauxhall.
Didn't they ride terribly? because
I think they did everything
and they
terribly.
were massive. Yeah,
But they
it
went
was great
in
fun.
a straight line really well. And
Torx
for me,
did,
that's
yeah.
kind of what General Motors at the time was really good at doing, is kind of like cheap performance. Big power for not a lot of money. And the Vauxhalls drove terribly from what I heard. But it doesn't matter because you had a VXR with well over 200 horsepower
and a
through the
seating
front wheels.
position in them. I mean, you kind of like they weren't, there wasn't a sporty seating position in
Yeah.
that people carrier base. So
Yeah, it's sporty MPVs are so rare. But there's a bit of a British theme to this.
yeah, and
Vauxhall,
Vauxhall.
isn't there?
Well, yeah.
And on that note, it is time to end. Thank you ever so much for listening. And if you really enjoyed what you listened to, I'd appreciate a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. It just lets us know that we're doing a good job, and it does help spread the love for the gassing station and helps get our name out there. So would really, really appreciate it. Sam, anything you'd like to add before we next meet?
I have an orange thing in my calendar which says Clio MOT due. That's for tomorrow, actually, so it's going to expire.
Yeah.
My 182 Clio has a remap, has had for many, many years, but the MOT station I used to get it MOT'd at, they were a perfectly legitimate establishment, but they were very friendly. I now have to use a new MOT station that I've never used, and I am terrified it's going to fail on remap-based emissions. I don't know if it will, but it does smell quite petrolly on startup. So I will return here and have an update on that. Did the Clio pass? Did it not?
I guess we'll find out.
That's what we're going to find out. There'll probably be more exciting things as well than that.
When we see you next Tuesday.